That's an interesting question about what we can learn from innovations in space that apply back here on Earth. And I think I would give the example of a number of things that are related to our conference that we're having today, which are the challenges of providing clean air and clean water for crews that are operating in space, whether it's in a spacecraft or on the surface of a place like the moon or in the future, Mars. Those systems that we've developed have been really good in making buildings here on Earth safer places for people. Back in the 1970s, when we flew the Skylab mission, it was America's first space station. We found out that the astronauts were getting somewhat nauseous and sick on board. And what we learned was that the materials, all these modern plastics and other fiber-like materials that we had used to build the spacecraft were doing something called off-gassing, or they were expelling some of the really noxious and poisonous chemicals that were used to make them up. We did not expect that. So we came up with air purification systems to solve that problem. Ironically, at the same time, newer buildings were being built down here on Earth, and people in those buildings were having similar kinds of problems with nauseousness and the like. And so we were able to apply the same technologies we used to clean the air on the Skylab spacecraft to offices here on Earth. The second thing is just water purification. There are literally millions of people around the world who don't have access to clean drinking water. And so we've taken some of the water purification systems that we use today on the International Space Station, where we're able to reuse about 98% of all fluids, whether it's urine, perspiration, condensate that comes off some of the machinery, anything. We put them through a water purification process, and it comes out the other end with much cleaner water than we started with. We've taken that same technology and brought it back down to Earth, and we put it to work in some undeveloped countries, but also in my country, in the United States. We use it a lot in the South, where there are poor areas where people don't have clean drinking water, and so they now are able to do better than they did before. You know, we've turned to commercial space. Sometimes people call it new space. I don't like the term because space is space. There's nothing new about it, but some of the things we do are new concepts. And as we phased out of the space shuttle in 2011 and started moving into the utilization of commercially provided spacecraft that were built by companies, conceived and built by just private companies, we found that NASA helps them with the technologies that we feel are going to make the spacecraft safer, going to make them faster, make them cleaner. And those technologies, if they work in space, we bring them back to Earth. You'll see them in airplanes. I don't know who's flown on a Boeing 777, the Boeing 777 or 777. It's one of the most modern technological aircraft that you'll ever see, because the lighting inside is sort of mood lighting, and they can vary it depending on what phase of flight they're in to make the passengers feel more comfortable. The system, the airframe itself is a composite airframe, which is really, really strong, much stronger than the old metal airframes we used to have, which means they can pressurize the cockpit or the cabin to much higher pressures, almost like we have down here on Earth. So people who used to feel fatigued or get headaches and stuff from flying long distances, they now come back and they feel much more refreshed because they've been getting much more oxygen due to the higher pressure in the cabin. So those are just a couple of things that we do right now that make life better for us down here on the planet.